What's up, life designers? Welcome to Intentional Tuesdays. This week we're going to be talking about virtuosity. Now, virtuosity is a term that traces back to old school gymnastics. And virtuosity is one of the elements that athletes were judged on for their routines. And it was measuring the quality of their execution. And it was kind of an obscure concept that was difficult to explain. I've taken the idea of virtuosity and I've really expanded it to apply to every aspect of life, and I think it's a really cool idea that helps. At least it helps me to achieve a greater sense of accomplishment and actually, I think, better results. Wherever I tend to apply it, I get great results. So if this sounds interesting to you, then stick with us because we're going to jump right in. So first off, let's talk about just what is virtuosity. The easiest definition of virtuosity is doing common things uncommonly well. Now you can probably imagine this can apply to just about anything in your life. So we are going to take this a little bit deeper. It's easy, I think, to get trapped into thinking that virtuosity is all about skill and having a really, really high degree of skill or talent. And I do think that talent and skill are often involved when virtuosity is at work. However, in our daily lives, in most of our cases, I don't think it's a lack of skill that is causing our virtuosity score to drop. I think it's actually something way more within our control in the immediate term, and that is a lack of intention and a lack of attention. So I would propose that your virtuosity score, in the cases where it's low, is not probably because of a lack of skill, but rather because of a lack of focus and attention. So now the idea of virtuosity can apply to any aspect of your life, any domain. So I'm going to walk through really quickly 4 different domains of your life and just give you a feel for how virtuosity might show up in each of those 4 areas. So the first area we've already talked about a little bit, it's health and well-being. So if you're going to the gym on a weekly basis, are you, when you're at the gym and you're going through your workout routine, are you paying attention to the movements that you're doing? Are you really focused on the execution of the exercises? Or are you just kind of going through a routine and maybe not getting as much value out of it because you're just going through the motions? Let's take, for example, the area of your finances. Are you being intentional about how you spend your money? Or are you getting sucked into every advertisement that comes across your field of view? Are you getting roped into the scarcity claims that advertisers use these days? And are you getting caught up with impulse purchases? Would be an example of kind of low virtuosity in the area of your personal finances. Next area could be your relationships. When you are engaged in important relationships, are you showing up fully? Are you being fully engaged in those conversations? Are you letting the other person know that you're listening to them and trying to understand their perspective before you try to get your perspective heard and understood? That would be an example where your virtuosity might become important. And the idea of virtuosity can apply even to your spiritual life. If you are actively engaged in some kind of a spiritual practice, are you just going through the motions? Are you just saying the words from memory? Or are you allowing those words to really impact you and really kind of get you in touch with your spirituality? So these are all examples where the idea of virtuosity can be applied. These are all things that we do on a regular basis. In other words, these are common activities. And the question is, are you doing them uncommonly well? And typically, the answer is no. Our virtuosity score would be rather low in many of these areas for most of us most of the time. So now, why do we allow our virtuosity scores to drop? If these areas of our life are important, and I'm guessing that most of them are important, why do we let our scores drop? I think there's a few reasons. One of the reasons is just a pure lack of awareness. We get so caught up in our daily lives and the things that we have to do that we just lose sight of the fact that our virtuosity score is dropping. We lose sight of the fact that we're just going through the motions. So a lack of awareness is probably the first reason why your virtuosity score might plummet. A second reason is a lack of time. Now, that lack of time may be real, but more likely it's just a perceived lack of time. But when we are under time constraints and pressures to get things done, we are going to be less likely to be able to dedicate the time and the attention and the intentionality required to get our virtuosity score up. So if we are feeling time constrained, we are likely to cut corners and to kind of just mindlessly go through the motions, which is going to cause our virtuosity score to drop. Another reason why we might not be focused on our virtuosity score is if we don't think the extra time and the attention is going to make a difference. And this can happen either consciously or unconsciously, unfortunately. If you feel like even putting forth a little bit more effort isn't going to yield any more results, then you are not going to put forward that extra effort. You only put in the energy and time, and scoring high in virtuosity takes energy, and it typically does take more time. You're not going to do it if you don't think there's going to be a return on that investment. So if your virtuosity scores are low, you might take a check to see, do I feel like there's no reason to even bother? And the last reason why you might be scoring low on virtuosity, and it's probably the most sinister, is that you simply don't care. You don't care about whatever area of your life is getting that low virtuosity score. Now, this one is tricky because we can't care about everything. But if you notice that you're scoring low on virtuosity in a particular area of your life, ask yourself the question, do I actually care about this area? It may be that you don't, in which case that's fine. But it may be that you've kind of unconsciously made the decision that you don't care, and that's not really reflective of how you feel. So you want to just kind of take a real assessment about whether or not you care about this particular aspect of your life. And if you do care, then you'll make the effort to raise your virtuosity score in that particular area. So this is where the idea of being intentional about trying to raise your virtuosity score can be really beneficial. I know that in my own life, I have found tremendous benefit in picking an area of my life and just saying, okay, I'm going to raise my virtuosity score in this particular area of my life. Even if it's as simple as just taking out the garbage or making my bed every morning or responding to emails that I, get in the habit of just kind of punching out the response and hitting send. I just pick an area of my life to focus on raising my virtuosity score, and then I take a step back and say, what kind of results did I get? Did I get better results? Did people respond to me differently because I was putting a different level of intentionality into the input? You want to be noticing where your virtuosity score is low and targeting those areas for an experiment. Not necessarily saying that you need to focus on every aspect of your life and try to get all of your virtuosity scores to a 10. That is unrealistic. We live in a real constrained world. But play around. Notice when your virtuosity score is low and ask yourself, oh, I wonder what would happen if I was able to raise my score in this particular area of my life. And just conduct an experiment. I think you'll be surprised by the results that you get. So I hope you enjoyed this week's discussion of virtuosity. As always, I appreciate your time and your attention. If there's anyone else in your life who you think might be interested in Intentional Tuesdays, please point them in our direction. I'm always happy to have a new subscriber. With that, I hope our paths cross sometime in the near future. And until that day, I wish you all the best and a prosperous journey. Take care.